Hamilton here. Scoot over just a little bit. I like to be centered. I like to be centered. And I wish my hair would, you know, get big accordingly. But hey, check this out. If you're watching on Facebook, what you're going to want to do is to click the link in the description so that I can see your name when you comment, and let's make this personalized. Okay. So I'm really excited. I'm really particularly excited because I think I look cute today. I think there's actually not a whole lot of makeup that I did today, and I actually did it in just like 12 minutes, if that, right? So I'm excited to be able to still look decent for you, despite the fact that it was a really rushed. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's typical. I mean, it was pretty much what I would have to do if I was getting up and going to somebody's job because your girl values sleep, tends to value sleep. So let's talk about getting stuck. This is something that comes up in my inbox quite a bit. And first off, in the spirit of transparency, I need you to know that your girl sometimes, I don't know that I necessarily feel stuck, but what will happen is, I'm a workhorse. I'm trying to stop doing that. However, I tend to be somebody who really puts their all into things. Okay. And so I might come off of 6, 9 months of just nonstop content creation and all other kinds of things that I am doing and working on. All from a spirit of I love my life, don't get me wrong, but everybody still has a certain amount of capacity where our bodies, our minds, everything is limited to a certain amount. We need rest. I'll say that we need rest. And one of the things I'm working on is really truly having periods of rest, because I have periods of less activity, but not necessarily full rest, where I might still be doing something and addressing why do I feel like I always have to be doing something. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're talking about feeling stuck, and where this comes up for me personally is when I do have those intentional periods of rest. Like historically, January is typically a month of really low activity for me. And I've found that sometimes I think I might go a little too low activity because it kind of depresses me. So amping up that activity. But anyway, after coming off of a period of like this summer, I didn't go into this summer with the plan of not working as much as I normally do, because I normally slow down in the winter months and pick it back up towards spring and summer to really gear up for the fall and holiday season. And sometimes, and particularly this year, it was challenging to get back into the full swing of things. Now, I'm just gonna address the big pink elephant in the room, because if you know me, because y'all be in my inbox and I'll be like, yeah, I know, because you might be saying how you just really aren't doing what you're supposed to. You've really slowed down. You really need to pick it up. And I'll say the same thing, and y'all will say to me, but Tamara, I can't tell. And that's because I have these habits and I have these patterns, like posting so many times a day on Facebook, for example, that I will still be doing that activity. But you have to remember, I've got enough content to be able to do that without having to create new content. I have enough written captions. I have enough written blog posts that I can continually be having activity post and not necessarily be doing the things on the back end that need to be done. For example, reaching out and speaking to people, starting new conversations, developing new relationships, networking. I may not be doing those things. And one of the things with becoming unstuck is you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself. So, for example, I know myself, and I know that I would prefer to create than to network. Because don't get me wrong, I know how to network. I'm good at networking, but I will tell you that sometimes I just don't want to talk to people. Just be for real. Sometimes I will find whatever I can do to keep from talking to people. So this conversation came up recently, um, in, in a private setting. How do someone, I was point blank asked, how do I basically become unstuck? It was actually a two-part question, and I'm going to address it in two different videos. So in this video, we're going to talk about becoming unstuck. And I don't remember who said it, because I would definitely give them credit if I could remember who said this, because I heard it and it was like, yes, you are absolutely correct. And this is what they said. They said that I think it actually, now that I think about it, I think it was actually Ray Higdon. He's like, the reason you feel frustrated, it might not have been him, it might have been somebody else, now that I think about it. Because he says frustration is the difference between where you are and where you think you should be, where you want to be. And that's true. But the reason you get overwhelmed is because you have all this in your head, all these things bouncing around in your head. They're all in your head. They're all in your head, but you have not put it on paper. And, I've been doing brain dumps for years, but I still sometimes get in these moments. I still get in these seasons. I still get in these periods where I will have it all bouncing around in my head. And instead of doing what I know I need to do, just dump everything out that you need to do on paper. And that will cause an immense amount of overwhelm for me. So let me talk about why, for me in particular, and I think for most people, it's important to get it out on paper. Because for me, being slightly on the ADHD scale, and I've determined that that's really a trauma response. I don't think I'm full on ADHD. My concern is if I don't get it on paper, I'm all this overwhelm in my head is I'm trying to hold on to everything, every little thought that comes by, every idea, every little thing is in my head, and I need to just get it out on paper. That way I won't forget about it. That's why I get that overwhelm, because in my head, I am trying to hang on to it. I don't want to lose it. I probably should have put the dishes away before I started, but that's okay. We here now. Started from the bottom, now we here. I forgot the rest of the song. But you want to take care of that overwhelm by just putting everything on paper, doing that big brain dump. And then once you've got it all on paper, the next thing is to prioritize it, right? And so the second piece of that is, how do I prioritize it? Which we'll talk about in another video, okay? But in a nutshell, very, very briefly, my barometer for everything is, does it bring me joy? Does it come with ease and flow, right? If I can't find how to make it come from ease and flow and joy, then it probably is not for me. It is my duty to myself to figure out how to make it joyful and come with ease and flow. Otherwise, it's got to go. It just cannot be on my radar. It cannot be a part of anything. Everything that I do must bring me joy, and it must come from ease and flow. Okay. And that includes relationships. If relationships are forced, if relationships are strained, then I got to figure out a way to make them joyful again. I got to figure out how to make that relationship come with ease and flow. And if I cannot do it, then that might just be time to love that person from a distance, because it's really important to me to come from a place of joy, ease, and flow. I think in recent years, I've really discovered and stumbled upon relaxed Tamara, and relaxed Tamara can still work with intensity. Relaxed Tamara can still be ambitious. Relaxed Tamara can still go after it. She can still be very goal driven, but just without, I don't even know the word to describe it other than super intensity, beyond intensity. That tends to kind of scare people. It can be, she cannot be such a nice and pleasant person to be around. Now, don't get it twisted, because relaxed Tamara will read you. Relaxed Tamara will put you in your place if you come across that line. But it's how it's done, I think, that is a little bit different. So it's super important to me to stay in the relaxed to mirror zone as much as possible, and that comes from joy, ease, and flow. So that means doing the brain dump, having the prioritized list. Because once I prioritize that list, you know, it's really important that I only focus on 2 to 3, maybe depending on how small some of them are, 4 or 5 things at a time. I will not even think about anything else on that list until those top 3 things, maybe 4 or 5 if they're really, really small things, need to be crossed off of the list first. Okay. And that's another reason to have it down on paper. That's another reason that you want to make sure that you are putting your brain dump on paper and prioritizing it, because now you won't forget about it. Okay. And that's where that overwhelm again comes from, because all these things are rattling around in your head like little people, little voices. You need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. And when it's on paper, yes, you might still need to do it. Yes, you might even want to do it and have a strong desire to do it. However, because it's on paper, you can forget about it if it's not in your top 3 priorities. So, how do I really quickly prioritize? I will tell you this, aside from coming from joy, ease, and flow, I am looking for those things that are going to give me some quick wins, that are going to give me a sense of accomplishment of having crossed something off of my list. And how I gauge what that is I'm looking for something that is going to give me a big payoff with a little effort. What is the one little thing that I can do right now that is going to have a big difference, going to make a big impact? So I'm looking for impact. Now, of course, I'm still looking for, is it aligned with my financial goals? Is it aligned with my spiritual goals? Is it aligned with goals, the mission, the vision, period? Because quite honestly, if it's not, that's definitely not a priority, right? So another thing you'll often hear people talk about, is it important or urgent, right? Because it can be urgent but not important. And I can't even give you an example of that right now, but you can look it up, because I'm sure there are blog posts and things out there on this whole topic of urgent versus important, right? It can be important but not urgent, just like vice versa. It can be urgent but not important. And here's what I will tell you from my experience: a lot of the urgent but not important things are from other people. Okay. The urgent but not important things are from other people, right? So, one of the things that I had to deal with when I first began working from home was friends and family that wanted to call me because I was at home and they were bored at work, getting paid regardless of whether or not they were actually working, calling me and wanting to chit chat. And it's like, okay, that meme that you see right now that you find very funny might be urgent to tell me about, but it just might not be important. And so we got to chat about that later. We can chat about that later. Okay. That's not important right now. What's important right now is me doing income producing activities, because I don't get a guaranteed paycheck every week, every 2 weeks, on the 15th and the last day of the month, right? If I don't work, I don't eat, right? That's where I was at that season. And so I guess that's an example of urgent but not important, right? Other people's crap, right? Their lack of, what do they say? A lack of preparation on your part does not constitute an emergency for me. Okay, I wish I would have brought my little sponge, because I'm sweating just a little bit, and the fan is rotating. It's not on high, so I'm kind of fancy. Woo. So and that in a nutshell is pretty much how I get unstuck. Another thing that I would say is you've got to take action. Just sitting and feeling overwhelmed and thinking about all the things that you have to do is not going to change a single solitary thing, right? You've got to take some action, any action. And one of my mentors says, you can't F it up, right? You got to know that you can't F it up. You've got to just take some inspired action, right? So that's why I'm a big believer in reading your goals and your mission statement a couple times a day to keep you in line and in alignment with them, so that you can know what's urgent versus what's important and be able to deflect other people. Because when you're, and I say this with a lot of humility, when you're a person of influence, a leader, whether you want to be or not, because believe me, there are times when I do not want to be a leader, but for whatever reason, I was predestined to be. And you have to learn to deflect other people, because other people are constantly coming to you, right? And unfortunately, it's not something that I was taught how to deal with that, how to handle that. And I've had to learn through trial and error, of course, through personal development and skill development and reading books and webinars and all other kinds of things, seminars. I've learned, how to basically set boundaries. A lot of it is around setting appropriate boundaries. Okay. And so the connection, I'm waiting on the connection. There it is. So it is very important to know what those goals and that vision and that mission are, so that they are at the top of your head and fresh for you to keep pushing through the day and keep blocking and tackling throughout the day. That's literally what you're doing. Because it's either people who don't have their own business or people who really aren't working their business who like to be on the phone with you all day, right? I remember from corporate America and different organizations I'm involved in and or used to be involved in. Sometimes these Zooms and these meetings are a waste of time. They literally are a waste of time. And I like to be present in anything that I'm doing, but some of these meetings could be emails, right? And so it's all in the presentation and how you address that and bring that up. But it really boils down to, some of these meetings really could be an email. They're not necessary. Okay. And if you have the power to not have a meeting and send an email instead, I encourage you to do that, because there are people out there who just like power, and the fact that they can hold the meeting and make you be in the meeting is something that they want to do. It makes them feel empowered. It makes them feel in control. It makes them feel productive. When and then they end up stressed and overwhelmed, and then they want to pass that stress and overwhelm to everyone around them. And again, that's that blocking and tackling. Like, look, I'll tell somebody in a minute. That could be an email. If I know, like, are you sure that needs to be a meeting? Maybe that should be an email instead. And I've had conversations with friends, especially my counterparts who are also African American women. Like, we tend to want to prove we always feel like, it's not even a want, we are forced to often feel like we constantly and continually have to prove ourselves. And it's one of the things I remember distinctly from corporate America. I would be told that I was, you got to prove yourself. We got to see that you can do it again, when no one else has ever even done it, but you want to see that I can do it again, instead of going and holding other people accountable and having them prove that they can do it. But that's a whole other story, right? That's a whole other video. So we always feel like we have to prove ourselves. And sometimes that's where unnecessary activity in the name of productivity, in the name of looking like we're superior to everyone and blah, 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 blah. We might be holding meetings that don't need to be held. And I've had to have those conversations with people and things that I'm involved with and, that I'm close to. Like, hey, you don't have anything to prove to anybody. If you are leaving out of town, why are you trying to have this Zoom from a lounge in the airport to look like you're all in? Like, it's time to cut that out. That's why we become entrepreneurs. That's why we get higher teams. That's why we have people in place to not look like we are on all the time. Because trust me, those men are not doing that stuff, right? But as women, not just Black women, we feel we have to do that. It really boils down to worthiness, because we don't feel worthy of doing what the men do. And we have to learn to, to feel worthy. And it is a learning process, to truly, truly feel that you are worthy and not have to, because to me, they're opposites. When you feel you have to constantly prove yourself, what it really boils down to is you don't feel that you are worthy and deserving of the position, the success, the title, the rank, right? And so it's a matter of switching it from feeling unworthy to feeling worthy. And a great way to do that, of course, is affirmations, writing down what you've accomplished, writing down all the reasons why you are worthy, writing down all the reasons what you do, and how it brings value and service to the world, to the people that you serve, to the people that you work with and for. And and when you look at it from the lens of everything that you bring to the table, everything that you've done and continue to do, you having to sit in an airport lounge and fake a meeting and drag people on a meeting for 20 minutes just doesn't make sense. You are worthy and deserving without having to do that. Okay. So, just some thoughts on getting unstuck, because, it could be slow. And it's so hard for me to say that because I know that my valleys and what I do in those valleys and what I accomplish and what I present and bring to the world and the value and service that I bring to the world is still so much more than what a lot of other people do, who consequently like to be on the phone with me telling me about all this negative stuff. And it's like, look, you gotta go talk to somebody else about that because I got things to do. Like, I am full on beast mode again. I ain't got time for that. I don't need to hear it because it doesn't bring me joy, and it doesn't come from easy flow. It actually creates resistance. So you absorb what you hear and what you speak and what you think. And I don't have time for that. So that is basically, in a nutshell, how I become unstuck. You got to get it on paper. You got to prioritize it. You got to look for what's the little thing I can do that's going to have a big impact. Does it, for me, does it come from joy, ease, and flow? Is it aligned with my morals, my values, my mission, my vision, and my goals? And then from there, I only focus on the top 3 things, maybe 4 to 5, depending on how little some of those tasks are. And then from there, it just really boils down to praying, meditating, getting the divine guidance on what you should do next, and taking action. And knowing that, as my mentor says, you can't F it up, but action is better than inaction any day. Action is better than inaction any day. And know this, okay? That action, I'm gonna tell you right now, in most cases, is not taking another course, downloading another PDF, listening to or watching another video, unless it's in the background while you're taking action, because information without application means no transformation. It's just a waste of time, right? And I know a lot of people who are professional cheerleaders, professional students, and they are professional time wasters, and not just of their own time. They will waste your time if you allow them to. Okay. And so that's where that blocking and tackling comes in, that setting of boundaries, because information plus application equals transformation. And so in most cases, you do not need another course, another coach, another webinar, another download PDF or ebook. You need to do something with the stuff that you've already learned. Okay. And most of y'all already know what to do. So it's just a matter of actually doing it. Get on live, get in your stories, make that real, do something, start, message 5 people and just say, hey, how you doing? Right? Take action, and you'd be amazed at what happens divinely after you do that. Okay. So again, my name is Tamara Hamilton. Please make sure you hit that follow, subscribe button. Comment below. Let me know you are here. Even if you're not watching live, I will definitely comment and talk to you. I don't always get the notifications, but I will definitely do my best. And feel free to message me. I'd love to hear what your biggest takeaway was from this. And I will talk to you later. Bye.
Even crack a joke at a bitch like me right now. I just paid 3 bills. Nothing is funny today. You can't even crack a joke at a bitch like me right now. I just paid 3 bills. Nothing is